Hi, and welcome to Conversations from the Alcove. My name is Caridad Svich. I'm a playwright, and I'm also artistic director of the Alcove New Play Development Program at the Lucille Lortel Theater in New York City, where we work with artists both nationally and internationally um, on new plays, as well as translations and works that are being revised, maybe from other iterations. That's a little bit more information that you probably need right now. I'll start by doing an auto description of myself before I introduce our guest today. But if you don't know anything about the series, it is literally a conversation series with theater makers about art, craft, and the world, not necessarily in that order. Audio description time. I am a fair skinned person with today my hair is doing all sorts of things, but it's a brown with gold flecks in it. Today it's being very rambunctious. I usually have it up. Sometimes I have it down, but today is not wanting to stay up, and so it's a little bit like wild behind me. But I do have bangs. They don't seem so wild today. I have brown eyes. I have tortoiseshell glasses tipped on the edge of my nose. They're rather large and round. I have red lipstick on. Today I'm wearing a. You'll see the my collar is a top. It's got like a black background and flowers, and then I have a black knit sweater on top of that. I'm wearing stringy white headphones in my ears, and behind me is a wall that's white, and the outline, you might see the outline of a curtain that's also white, and it's blurred out, but it's a real background and not a virtual one. Our guest today is Nelson Diaz-Marcano. Nelson Diaz-Marcano is a Puerto Rican, New York City-based theater maker, advocate, and community leader. His mission is to create work that challenges and builds community. He serves as the literary director, I still think is, but we'll find out, for the Latinx Playwrights Circle, where he has helped develop over 150 plays. What?
Yeah.
In the 3 years. That's a lot of plays. His own plays have been developed by the Ensemble Studio Theater, the Road Theater Company. If you don't know them, they're kind of cool. A cool company in Los Angeles, California. Pipeline Theater Company, Club Thumb, the Lark. Oh, the Lark.
I
Uh,
know.
the Lark, which is no longer, but the Lark was
Yeah.
really amazing. Vision, Latino Theater Company, the Orchard Project, the William Inch Theater Festival, Classical Theater of Harlem, many others. I remember his play Las Boriqueñas at Ensemble Studio Theater, but they've also written others. Ito Abuela, Where Is She? Where the Earth Moves, We Dance, The Diplomats, Paper Towels, uh, I Saw Jesus in Tao Baja,
Oh,
and,
wow.
and Revolt, question mark, not question mark, exclamation point. Many plays, more to think about. And there's working on a play with us called Radio Bemba, which is a play that I'm becoming fond of, even though it's nascent and emerging. So welcome, Nelson.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me here today, Caridad.
Absolutely, my pleasure completely, and long overdue. For those of you that follow the series, you know that I always start with the same question, which is, how is the climate crisis affecting your art practice?
I mean, my whole art is based on Puerto Rican history and Puerto Rico in general. Trying to uplift our voices because there's no many places that do or many that actually are pushed to. And Puerto Rico itself is a big. We have to deal with a lot of climate crisis between the hurricanes, which are more constant now, behind droughts, and beyond all that. One of the things that actually affect me the most mentally is the fact that there's beaches in Puerto Rico that I used to go as a child. Actually, to go as I always tell the story about how on my prom we escaped the prom at 2 o'clock in the morning and we went to this beach called Ocean Park and we walked the whole way and there was like those, I mean, like hundreds of us. It was students. And that beach today, you couldn't walk the same path because most of it is gone
What?
because of rising waters.
Oh, wow.
And there was another place in Macau, this coastal town that I used to like always drive there, and that was my area because you can literally drive, park on the side, and just be at the beach, and you can park, listen to the music to your car, and this was like early 2000s, so we didn't have streaming or anything like that. It was whatever CD I had.
Yeah.
And just put the CD, listen to the thing, and just see the waves. And most of that beaches also has eroded too. So things
Mm,
like that affect me because it's like it's not just oh, climate crisis is happening around the world. It's like it's a visual cue of what is happening. Like, and that's not just it. Like, we have lost animals. We've seen many of our parks like not only lose it to people creating housing and things like that, but just like not being able to recover the forest as fast as it used to. So it affects my art in a way that it creates urgency to what's
Yeah,
happening. I don't know, as sad as it sounds, we don't know how long the island's gonna be the island that I know.
yeah,
So a lot of my art requires me to really be like, hey, there's this place, not only for it like to be beautiful, go over there, don't stay over there. You need the locals to have homes.
yeah,
But it's also the urgency of like we need to have platforms like this to be able to tell people, hey, this is happening. We need help.
right.
I know you all are thinking about Bad Bunny and all that, which is great, but there's also a lot of work to do with our actual ecology.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Does it enter into your writing at all? Like, I mean, I assume it does, obviously, but whether through the means of production of how you think about plays or the subject matter of the work?
Yeah, I have a play called "When the Earth Moved, We Dance," which happens. I wrote a few years ago. It hasn't been produced yet. I hope it, but it's like a Goonies meets Into the Woods of a Puerto Rican folklore characters, and the main reason I wrote it was because we were having all these earthquakes in Puerto Rico. I remember like one earthquake in the 20 years that I've lived there. I think there might have been like one or two, and they're very small. We had around 13 earthquakes within like 3 days at the beginning of like 2022, and I created a whole play about that, about like, oh, it's because the heart of Puerto Rico is dying, and you have to find the goddess at the bay to bring it back and whatever. But the whole time, it's like it was about like how the ecology is dying because the heart is dying. So it's constantly in my mind how it changes, and how like just in general we're losing all these things that like I remember and my kids will not be able to ever see.
Yeah, and there's something, I always talk about playwriting and writing in general. To be honest, especially if it's not like writing a textbook, which is to that you're recording history, that you're somehow writing things down so that people will remember it existed, and that includes vernacular, that includes subject matter, that includes places, geographic places that may be lost someday, people, and so forth. It is a way of keeping a record, especially when I think, and we know this already, but when so much of history, shall we say, official history, is being played with fast and loose in terms of its
Yeah,
accuracy, right? And whitewashed and so many things, right, that happen, and what gets sort of historically counted, and what gets taught pedagogically. So I do think that playwriting serves as an interesting niche of recording, as well as being a fantastic philosophical and fanciful place to explore
yeah.
theatricality and humanness and all the things. But it's so cool. How did you get into playwriting? I mean, was this like a natural fit, or
No,
did
it
you
was
stumble
not. It's
into
actually
it?
No, it's actually really funny because it just like I was always kind of a writer, always kind of like an artist, but I also come from like country Puerto Rico, like in the 80s. Like I come from like cars that were made up from different cars, driving all over the place. I had to, if I wanted eggs, I had to go find the chicken nest and bring the eggs to my mom to cook. So like, but then I had, it was like it's like a funny Romeo and Juliet. My mom was like from the town, from like high class, and my dad was not. My dad was from the country. And we ended up having this dichotomy. So I would go to private school and then come home to the chickens, and it was such a like a weird thing. And so for years, I use a lot of imagination. I was left alone a lot of the time. Not left alone like my mom wasn't there, but I was like, it's the 80s. They're like, go over there and do whatever you want and come back. And I would
Right.
go. What I had outside was a jungle, like literally a jungle. This is like country, Puerto Rico. So I would just get lost in the trees, like get like climb trees, eat mangoes. That was my day. So I would just imagine. But it was not encouraged in Puerto Rico to be an artist as much, especially in the 90s, where everybody was more like trying to assimilate and trying to more go into the idea of corporate America, and that's how you work instead of being more artistic.
Yeah.
I was very athletic too, so I did a lot of athleticism. I did a lot of like sports and stuff like that. But ultimately, I fell in love with film. I was in love with film. Like I started with Spielberg, because by 15, I was already watching David Lynch and Buñuel and like Bergman and all those things. So I fell in love with film, and I just wanted to like go and come to the United States to study film, because over there they don't encourage you. So I just went to a school called Stony Brook, because I couldn't afford, like, I got into NYU in Boston at BU, but I couldn't afford it. I was like, again, where I come from, you don't afford those schools.
Yeah.
But I got into Stony Brook to a student exchange program, and they had a film program that was like, okay, it was more theory. So I went looking for actors to be able. I went to take an acting class to be able to be like, to find actors to film later on, movies that I put in my head. Little did I know that the acting class would change my whole trajectory of life. I took the acting class. The professor actually thought that I was a really strong actor. So for the first thing I did in theater for the first like 5 years was act. So I was acting a lot. I did well. I ran the student club, which is like, that was within the first year I ever did theater. I was already running the student club, but it's like a way to learn. And ultimately, like when I came out, and I had done like a couple of plays for the Play Festival, but when I came out of college, I come here, I get an agent, and this is 2009. I'm getting just like Budweiser commercials and like drug dealer programs, and I was getting like okay money. Like I was getting enough, but I was getting mad because I was like, oh, okay, what are the roles?
Right.
So I decided to work as a playwright. I decided to start learning how to do playwriting. I decided to create those roles. I decided to be like, and in those times, like most people told you, like you cannot write and act at the same time. So I was just more focused on writing and create those roles. And like the rest is history. I started writing plays. I fell in love with it, and I wanted to create a space for other people to do it. And with Guadalis, Oscar, and all the teams, I created the Latinx Playwrights Circle, and just like it's been a great journey. Playwriting has given me a lot to like be happy about, because of the same thing you're saying, the philosophical questions, the intimacy of it all. Like it just called me. I love film. I still love film, but I feel like when you talk about history and how like it can be archival what we write, it
Right.
is like, because it's fast and loose. But through art, you can really see how people felt. Like you can tell how people actually saw society better than in the. So yeah, I just
Yeah.
got to writing because of that. I
You
wanted to
did.
do roles for people like me. I ended up being like, you know what? There's a lot of things that are missing, and maybe I can help put them together.
So cool. Did you ever write for yourself to act in a play?
I never have yet. I never have. I always
Okay.
think I do, and then it goes away. And like for years, I was like, okay, not acting. I was completely okay with it. But lately, a playwright from that has that has working for the hotel, Eliza and Riley, has been pushing me to act a lot, and Migdalia Cruz and other people have been like
Yeah.
really. So I've been acting. I worked with Jose Rivera recently.
Oh,
Read
cool.
one of his plays. So I've been like dipping back in again, but little by little. It's like the idea now of 41 with two kids that are still like toddlers, memorize lines, does scares me a lot. Even if
Memorize
I'm writing,
lines.
I'll be like, ah.
It's so much work. It's so much
It
work.
is.
It's a
Like I
lot.
have the intention to one day do it, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. The intentions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's you never know. Sometimes an opportunity will come up, and it will
Yep.
it will occur. Um, I keep joking, maybe in earnest, but with my friends recently about how it's very clear that we're in end times of a kind. Maybe even an extinction, which is really terrifying. But I'm still writing plays, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? What is this? Madness of wanting to still write plays. I mean, I get up and I go, oh, I have an idea for a play. Like, oh my gosh, what am I thinking? But I also feel like there's something hopeful about that, and
Absolutely.
I don't like to use that word too much because I think it gets overused. But the act of writing something, the act of putting something in the world, creating something, makes you feel like you know somebody else will be there at some point to witness that, to be
Yeah.
part of it, and but then part of me is like, but why theater? What are we doing? And so yeah, why theater now? So what are we doing with ourselves? I don't know anymore.
I mean, oh wait, let me put my headphones. because it seems like it's. Um, I would say like white theater is a question I asked myself recently, but like I also think about McCarthyism, the times of McCarthyism. I think about the Hays Code. I think about
Yeah.
all the times that censorship has happened in not a lifetime, obviously, because that's 100 years ago, some of them.
Right.
But like it has happened in a lifetime. In the 80s, we had like people forget how much censorship there was in the 80s too about queer stories, about stories
Yeah.
that will show the government, and it has happened. I think I think for the past 30 years, we have lived in a reality that seems more comfortable than it has. So now that we are confronted by a reality that is not as easy, uh, we feel like, oh, no, this, why are we doing this? But I feel like if people before us didn't do it during the AIDS epidemic, we wouldn't know exactly how the AIDS epidemic went. If we didn't have Angels in America that may use surrealism and things like that, maybe we wouldn't have the sympathy. Like more people wouldn't sympathize with the cause. Like if it wasn't for like the 50s movies and like the idea that we know that Elias Kazan believed what he believed because on the waterfront, but also we have all this media that fight that against it, and you see that at the end, like the hope won because at the end artistic expression wins. It depends. It's all cyclical. So, having said all that, I think we right place because we hope that this is cyclical, and when the cycle ends, the cycle of violence ends, we hope that we have an archive of what happens and how we survived it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know, and I think that I was talking to a friend yesterday about and maybe I'll write about this in a more extensive way on my blog. But I've been thinking a lot about people wanting to get to joy very quickly. You know, they're like, I'm going to write some joy right now. And I'm like, dude, you have to like face the present first. You can't actually leapfrog,
Yeah.
catapult into joy right away, because then all you're doing is actually kind of like, I'm not saying it's a false gesture. I understand people's desire for that, but I also think that there's something a little bit like, no, you really have to go through something, right? And going through something means facing the present. And that means the violence of the president also means the good things that might be happening in places that aren't being recorded. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think that, but instead of catapulting directly to, let me just play joy, I'm like, no, let's complicate this. Let's talk about how do we get to joy in the first place, right? And what does that look like? And what does that mean? And what is the cost of that, right? And so, so I wonder if that any of that resonates with you in terms of your work or
Oh,
your what you think
absolutely,
about theater. Yeah,
absolutely, it does. It's a matter of like, as I always tell to my partner, I always talk about the fact that that there was a time where self care became such a thing that it was like people were taking self care from self care. Like it was like a time a thing that everybody was to just to joy, and like this is what I'm talking about. Like we have gone so much to the comfort and like to
right,
hiding so much that we didn't see, and like Obama was president, so you know racism is over and things like that. That we forgot about the fact that life is uncomfortable and we have to live it that way. That
yeah,
we have to learn from it, and it's not that when we write plays because then you get accused of doing trauma porn. Oh, you wrote a
right,
play about the struggles, trauma porn. It's
right,
like it's not
yeah,
trauma. I mean, trauma porn exists, but talking about the struggle and showing how we survive it or how we like work through it or navigate it, it's not trauma porn. It's reality.
yeah,
Like, why would I talk about a play about Puerto Rico and not bring up the housing situation? Because I'm telling you right now, if I was in my neighborhood, everybody would be talking about the housing situation.
yeah,
Like, it is a
yeah,
sense of like life is not miserable all the time, and that's the thing that I really look for is
yeah,
that we can show those times where people are having these conversations in the family room in the
right,
beach together because that happens and they're doing it through beer and barbecue and they're like, oh, did you
yeah,
see that? And like,
yeah,
why does everything have to have like a scene where somebody gets murdered with a knife to show like the pain of losing? Why does somebody have to be sexually assaulted but to show loss of control? Like things like that happen even with lesser things, like with lesser situations. You know, people lose control just on colonization alone. And I think like showing how we get the joy of those situations is the power, is the thesis. Not showing that there's only joy, because then you're lying to your audience.
right,
You have to show them who you are and what that joy cost, because that joy always costs a little bit. It has
yeah.
to be earned. Joy has to be earned, and that's the thing that I think we forgot. So like, yes, this resonates a lot with me.
Let's leapfrog and catapult into something that's very comfortable, but it doesn't work that way. Life isn't like that. I mean, inside of what you were saying, it's sort of interesting when you were talking about, at the beach we talk about these things, and at the barbecue and other, and I was working on a play once. I won't say the name or the place or anything like that, but I don't want to but the characters were. It was a play with characters, and that doesn't always have to be, but this one was a play with characters, and the characters were they were kind of like, they were actually at the beach. To be honest, they were at the beach and they were hanging out, and they got into a heated political discussion. And I remember a note from, might have been an artistic director or producer, and they're like, that doesn't, why would they do that? Why would they just suddenly launch into a like, and I'm like, because people do, and it's okay, and like, why does the setting have to? No, because it should be a fun beach scene, and bum, 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 bum. And I'm like, no, but like, people talk about stuff in all sorts of situations, like, and in all sorts of locations, right? And also, and then there was like the other note was, oh, would they really get that political? And I'm like, yes, they would. Probably even more.
Yeah.
I'm probably making it light for you. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
so I'm just sort of, I'm always perplexed by this notion of one, geography of a scene, like literally where it's taking place, the location of a scene, how sometimes that's perceived by audiences, but also by producers when they're looking at a play, and what they expect. I mean, this is something that's very intriguing, like what they expect. Oh, that play is set up there. That means it's going to be this kind of play, right? But if you set it over there, ooh, it's in a conference room and people are talking really important things, right? So I just think about like where that's how we say important discussions with capital I are reserved in the theater, like where people think those are allowed or appropriate, and how, of course, that all of that is also has to do with colonialism. But your thoughts on that, and maybe how it manifests in your work.
It's funny to me because like I exactly understand what you said about the beach, like being always like a place where like the play ends because it's a happy place or something.
Happy
like
place.
that.
Yeah,
And they forget that D-Day happened in a beach. Like Columbus came to our beaches. Like it's also a matter of invasion. Like and it's like it's idea of stereotyping situations. Like I hate one of the worst things I see when people is like, oh, I'm gonna have a vacation that's gonna make me survive, and then you go to the Caribbean, and you're like, why? And you go to this resort, like you're not showing exactly how the Caribbean is, like, yes, and they always show like a violent part, and you're like, okay, like, but do you know that if you get off that part, there's this beautiful land all ahead. I think the idea is the same as stereotypes of people. I think like it's easier just to like put our brains to like generalize a place instead of thinking about all the things that have happened in that place. People think about forests as in like this magical place where nothing happens or it's too scary. Like for me, forests are places that people go to camp and like have fun and hike. I mean, it's a family thing.
yeah.
So for me, it's a matter of like, first of all, sorry, I just got over a cold. First of all, the fact that he thinks that at beach people will not talk about. I remember literally waking up in the morning when I was like 10 and my family was already talking about politics. And that was like and it was normal. It's normal. People just talk about it because it's everyday occurrence. Especially like if you live in a small town, if you live in a small area, you will talk about it because it's the only thing to talk about. And like it is it's a communal thing to talk about it. It's not just, it's not just like I want to have this bochinche. Oh my God, did you hear about this gossip? Like, let's do this. No, it's like, oh my God, there is an invasion happening. Let me talk to my community about it. And like you do it. You don't do it through a drama where everybody gets also serious. I'm like, oh my God, let's get real serious and put our heads down. No, you do it, put in a beer in the porch. It's like, hey, come here. And like, you get a beer, it's like, hey, did you hear about this? And suddenly that could be a heated debate because they're talking about it. Or it could be two people talking about it, being like, oh man, that's happening, and laughing about it. Not everything is so. I think one of the things that I found out about American theater and a lot of the American mentality in the last like 10, 15 more years is how black and white everything is.
Yeah.
And it's not even about a gray area, because then when they talk about gray area, it's very specific about like, oh, there's an anti-hero and there's this person. There's never about the nuanced conversations that every little part of life has to have. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, a beach is a place to like have barbecue and have fun. And if in Puerto Rico, you can even drink in the beach. But it's also a place where a lot of people have been killed. A lot of slaves died in the same beach in Puerto Rico that people are like, all these tourists are fighting for. Slaves were dragged into the water and drowned. And we cannot forget about duality. That duality exists about the geography and the people. And the same with the forest, the same with the streets, the same with the government. It's like good things and bad things that happen there. And to think that anything has one meaning is so limiting to me. Like I don't understand why people put one meaning to each thing. That is not better than being a bigot when you think because you're literally stereotyping people the same way that you stereotyping places. You know, when people say like India is like this, Africa because Africa is a country to some people. They just generalize everything, and I don't think in Puerto Rico I found people generalizing this much. I don't think that when I go to other countries I found people generalizing this much. So it's really amazing to me how much generalization runs this American phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious about what kind of play. I mean, oh, did you? I mean, I'll ask. So, what kind of theater you saw in Puerto Rico as opposed to the theater you see here, and what differences you may see, or uh, you know, or things that may be similar. You know what I mean? Like,
I would say the thing about Puerto Rican theater is that when I grew up, it was very like it was mostly raunchy comedies. Like sometimes you will get a drama, but it was like melodrama, like super heightened. There's no. Somebody the other day I was talking to a colleague. I don't want to get her in trouble, but because she's gonna get in trouble if I say this with the Puerto Rican crew. But like basically, she was saying how it was either La Carreta, which is like an old
the
like
Oscar, yes, Rene
classic.
Marquez, yes, we know.
Yeah, so it's either like a Carreta style plays, or it's either somebody having sex with a neighbor and the whole neighborhood trying to hide it. Like there's no in between, and that's how I grew up. And Juan
Yeah,
Bobo plays, obviously Juan Bobo plays,
yes, of
uh,
course.
which I saw as a kid, and I think I saw a few. When I left Puerto Rico, theater was starting to like I started seeing some theater, uh, and now I've heard. I mean, I work with a lot of my colleagues come from now from the Puerto Rican theater, and I see like Alejandra Ramos, Riera, like Ian Robles, Iram Delgado, Karina Curet, all of them are here now, and they're like, I see their work, it's amazing. And I seen the plays that are getting produced there. But during that time, everything was just like a sex comedy or
Right.
Juan Bobo. That was it. There was no in between. So I saw like two or three plays, but it wasn't like, like it was most, you go in there and you like think this is either for kids or for older people that have these ideas. For teenagers and 20-year-olds, there was nothing much. Now it gets better, but I haven't been able to see it. Now I have a play going up in October in Puerto Rico now, so I will experience it. But yeah, I haven't experienced it. I heard great things. My stepbrother, this is a funny story. My stepbrother, who I grew up with all my life, we played baseball together. We played so many sports. We were competitive against each other. Like he might not want to say that, but we were growing up. Robbie Arce, who has worked with Georgina Escobar and other people, and now we're doing both theater. Like like it happened out of nowhere, and we didn't try or anything. But I've been talking a lot to him because he's like very prominent in he was very prominent in the Puerto Rican scene for a while.
Wow,
So I have no
amazing.
idea how it is now, but I heard really good things, and I heard that it's going up.
Yeah. What was your experience of you were an actor here, you've been an actor here, you might be again. But of seeing plays here, like are there favorite plays for you? Are there favorite experiences of seeing plays here? Or other kind of art experiences that have impacted you?
I mean, when it comes to theater, I think the idea that you have a theater when you're in Puerto Rico and things, you watch just one sex comedies, you think that theater is a little corny and outdated. That's like how you haven't seen something like deep, or something that really like touches you. And like for like the 20 years I was in Puerto Rico, I never saw something in theater as a thing I wanted to do film. But then I came to New York, and besides doing the acting one class, there was this show, I mean, which now I know, but I didn't know then, called a little show called How I Learned to Drive.
Yeah,
Uh,
little show
and
by
it,
Paula Vogel. Yeah.
yeah, that little show, and it was the first show that I saw here. I know, the first theater show I saw, very comfortable and joyful. How I Learned to Drive,
Wow.
little bit. Well, yeah, I saw it, and I remember being just like, oh, what is, you can do this? And then I got during that time specifically, I was obsessive with everything. So I just got into theater and I started reading. I started getting into plays. I did Omnium Gatherum. My first acting job was Omnium Gatherum by Teresa Rebeck, which, funny enough, she came to the college to talk. So I got to meet her. I still not knowing anything about theater. I did Three Sisters. I did a few of those shows. So I fell in love with those shows with Edward. I was really into like Edward Albee, Beckett, Fornes, that whole group. That
Yeah.
was what shaped me into playwriting. And it's just like I started just consuming more than seeing. I just started reading. I started
Okay.
consuming so much plays because I always been that. I read the scripts of the movies after saw them. So I read so much, and I remember one of the moments very clear to me that I always going to like I was seeing a production, seeing exactly what you could do with a production. That real unlocked the idea that oh you have to stay small. Was seeing the first production of Pillow Man on Broadway, the Martin McDonagh production. That thing blew my mind. I never thought you could do half of those things, but it's not just how it looks, it's the storytelling technique. The idea that you
Yeah.
could manipulate storytelling like that in a way that is in front of you. That's one of the main reasons that I just fell in love. I was like, what? How can we do the staging that can affect me that way? I having the two. I don't know if you saw that. You remember,
I
but there
did
was
see it. I did.
and the storyline happening. It was just like
Yeah.
gorgeous in its really disgusting storytelling, but gorgeous nonetheless. And the story itself, like
Yeah.
the way that it tells a story about just stories and
Right.
how that can affect people, which now right now we're seeing how it affects
Of
people.
course. Yeah.
It's just like was one of those plays that the God of Who Sylvia too, because crazy play. But
It
wow,
is.
what incredibly writing the play it is. You know what I mean? At the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's always fun. It's like, oh, it's about a guy sleeping with a goat, and then you're like, oh, it's about not just tolerance, but also like the need, to like feel human, which is insane to say about a play about a man having an affair with a goat. But
Yeah.
those things really told me how to push and push and push. So those first moments just really stuck to me, and like recently, just being able to like see the play of contemporaries like Kristen Cato with
Right.
Sancocho and Okay, which are both amazing plays. Frankie Gonzalez, with that must be an entrance to heaven, and seeing more and more people. Eliza and Riley, which we talked about it. Besides the
Yeah.
Bodega Princess play, we also have like Papi Chulo play, which is a crazy play about. I mean, if you haven't read it,
I
it's a
have.
play about.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a game show basically about
Right.
immigration. So like it's these people that are bringing those stories, but it's not just oh this is American absurdism. This is all of it. It's
Right.
it's funny because people call it Latinx plays, but this is what America is. This is an
Right.
American play. It's a combination of all the things we learned to all these cultures around us, and they
Yeah.
are doing it through a Latinx lens, but also bringing things from other places. I know
Yeah.
these people have seen the same movies that I've seen and the plays. They see an Akira Kurosawa movie and say, how can I put that in a play? Or they
Right.
see an LRB show and say, how can we adapt it to this?
Yeah.
And it's that also makes me like really inspired to see playwriting and just seeing the way people really work within the limitations of theater to make it infinite. That's the best way to describe it for me.
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful description. And I wanted to shift gears a little bit to your tenure as a literary director at Latinx Playwrights Circle,
Yeah.
and all 150 plays that you've helped mentor. And so what's that process been like for you? Because of course you're a playwright and you're an actor. So what's that process for you to be on the other side of the development part of work?
It's really rewarding, actually. It's a lot, also because like sometimes you have to champion the playwrights. I'm sure that I have lost opportunities by being like, hey, but get this other playwright. And be like, oh, then they pick the other playwright. Oh man, you should shut up. But it's actually very rewarding at the end of the day because then you see them go there and like you see. We a lot of those plays are through our Sunday service, which is an open invitation room. People bring 10 pages if you have them, we read them. So like we read a lot of those pages. Through that, we have so many plays. Who knows? But then we also have the Fresh Draft series, which is like something. These are all programming that I created. Where we do a co-reading series, but we pay the actors, we pay the thing. We have a whole feedback session that people, and that's where Sancocho started. The beautiful Land 96 started. Like Borinqueña started reading there. Like it has helped a lot. So it is like a sense of finding space for people to be able to hear their plays and have the community that will serve them well. Because like I've been into a lot of cohorts that were, and this is not supposed, because everybody thinks like it's a race war. No, it's like there's a lot of cohorts that are white, and the truth is that sensibilities are not the same, our histories are not the same, the culture are not the same. So they have an idea what theater is that uh, might not like match with mine. But at the end of the day, the problem is that they try to like then tell you that that's not theater. Like I have heard from so many playwrights, so many people. So like one of the main things I hear constantly on Sunday service is like, oh, I show it to this in the cohort of mine, and they told me like people don't talk like this and this like that. And then people was like, my people talk like that. That sounds like me. So like it's a matter of finding a space where you can be, where you can bring those type of storytelling without people trying to like make you the next Arthur Miller or like the next, like Sam Shepard. Like no, like there is enough of that. There's every white playwright is trying to be that. Let us be ourselves, create our own canons, create our own people. Let us be our next Pinheiro and Fornes and things like that, or be the next Nelson Diaz-Marcano. Who knows? But let me be me and explore storytelling beyond the limitations that you have created in the education of theater in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating. I was thinking about. I won't mention who it is that said it because it will be controversial if I do. But there was a very famous writer, performer, who stated publicly in print that there had been no. I think I'm pretty accurate in this. I'm paraphrasing, but the sentiment is accurate in terms of my quoting them. Said that there had been no Latinx, a U.S. Latinx play ever written, that could stand on the shoulders next to Death of a Salesman. That there hadn't been a single one, that the Latino community in the U.S. Had chosen to write small plays. So this was the quote that I read. I won't tell you who it was. I might tell you offline. But it really got my goat because I just was like, wait a minute. We have we have amazing writers. Number one, like just look at the history of plays that have been written by U.S. Latina writers, i.e., American writers.
Yep,
And
yep.
I think that and it's I was a little bit flummoxed by that remark because what it was doing in a very strange way was sort of belittling a
Yeah.
lot of the history that's been built by like people that have just been in the field for a very long time, and also people that have passed whose work is still there, and but it got me thinking a lot about how there was a kind of value judgment being placed, like, oh, why aren't people? In other words, that statement I think was predicated in part, if I'm reading it correctly, and in its intentions. Latin writers don't want to. I mean, this is sort of what's behind that statement. Don't want to be as great as Death of Us. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I wonder how this sits with you. This question of value, aspiration. What are we striving for? What does that look like? What's the model? What's the form? And the plays that we make, which can be varied and faceted.
First of all, it's so funny that they picked Death of a Salesman because I don't even think Death of a Salesman is a great standard of plays for even Arthur Miller itself. I feel like having to have a melodrama, a 2-hour melodrama about a man being terrible to his family, and then we have to cry about him, it shows more about the person that told that quote than anything else.
Right.
Maybe we don't have a Death of a Salesman because we don't want to celebrate our terrible toxic masculinity, but we have a mighty soul. We
Right.
have her, we
Yeah.
have Fefu and her friends, we have
Mhm.
Torais, we have Pinheiro plays, we have so many plays that have been way better than that. I think the difference, is like I said before, is like black and white. You don't have a Devil Salesman play. You don't have a play that has been to Broadway multiple times and get Denzel Washington to play it the same way that other people like Liv Schreiber, all these other actors. We haven't had that, sure. But we haven't had that because you haven't let us.
Right.
Because the plays have been there for years. Like it was you, Candido Migdalia. It's been before that, Fornes. Before that, we have Pinheiro, like René Marquez. All these people have plays. that are strong enough to stand in the same length that Devil was Salesman, but they don't put it out there because they think that the story is not as universal. Like the story is not as appealing to people. But the truth is, like, that story is not appealing to anybody anymore because salesmen don't exist. Like nobody's going time to time trying to get subscriptions. Nobody remembers that world. And you think about Gen Z. Gen Z had no idea that people even knock on doors once upon a time. Like they don't even realize that there were doors without cameras. So like, and in this day and age, if you were cheating like the way that Willy Loman was, you were caught up by Facebook or TikTok. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it is a great play. I'm not gonna say that it's not a great play, but it didn't predict the future. It didn't age well. At the end of the day, it didn't create a philosophical body work to stand where people can do it for years and years. It's not a Shakespeare play. It's not an Ibsen play. It's not even a better Arthur Miller play. I think All My Sons have a lot more to say. A View from the Bridge has a lot more to say. So I will say this: it is belittling, but it's belittling from a way that a person that do not understand or have ever read a Latino play, because they use not only a general play, a play that literally a high school student will know. It's like if you ask somebody, what is your top 3 plays? They'll be like, oh, Devil a Salesman, without even reading it, because it's just on that level of the easy pickings. So like it's that sense, it shows me this person is coming from a place of ignorance. It's showing that a person that is afraid of being like threatened by the burgeoning Latinx scene that is happening. And he just shows a person that is not willing to tell stories that he's not included in, and like ultimately I think the stories when they're that broad, when they're that general, they might be good, but they lose the power of actually being universal or being timeless. I think the more specific you are, the more specific you are to a culture, to a time, to a person, to what you're trying to say is universal. And I think that, I sit with that thinking the same thing that I sit with American education while trying to say the only reason you think that white playwrights are the best is because you haven't read all the playwrights.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think inside of that, I don't want to belabor this too much, but I do think, because it's been bothering me, and I think when something bothers you, you kind of like, well, you're trying to tease it out. And I think that one of the things in that statement also is around not just the stature that was acquired by a play like that's The Salesman, or you know what I mean, like it's considered a modern classic and so forth.
Yeah.
But it's also has to do, I think, with, I'm going to use the word, frame this a little bit differently around the idea of importance with a capital I, which is that there's something in U.S. theater that has to do with that play is important, you know what I mean, and that play not so much. And how I think that's what I meant a little bit about value judgment. It's not just value judgment around the kind of play that it is, the structure of it, or the form, or how it's speaking, but also about what is it trying to take on? Bum, 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 right? Like it has to have a sort of like, and of course, who is judging what that is, right? Then we have to go back to gatekeepers and so forth, right? Like who is saying, well, that's important, that isn't, right? And also I think there's something inside of that. There's a kind of, I'm going to use the word romantic for example for a moment, but it's not quite accurate, but for the sake of brevity, I'll say romantic. There's a kind of romanticization of what people call the golden era of U.S. playwriting, right? This sort of Miller, Tennessee Williams. These plays were on Broadway. People talked about them, and I think that there is and it's true that people did talk about them. They were in the parlance. They were, it was like there were scenes from it, like on TV, and people could like. They would, oh yeah, Devil Salesman, oh yeah, A Streetcar Named Desire. Like it was part of the conversation culturally, right, as a collective in the nation, which is, I think, for plays, unless even Angels in America, even August Wilson's work. I was in a class teaching a class of students, they're undergrads. No one knew who August Wilson was. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, of course you do. August Wilson, super famous, 2 Pulitzers, And, and I was like, Fences, the movie. I was trying to
Yeah,
and they were like, I didn't see Fences. What was that? I don't know. Oh, it was some movie Denzel did. You know what I mean? Like, there was no, so I was like, so even people that are that people say, well, their stature, right, of this person, a great playwright, is not in the national conversation, right? And you get that with musicals, because I think that's a really different thing in terms of how it reaches people. But so I think that part of that statement was also about, why can't there be? I mean, this is sort of like me reading into it, right? Why can't there be a Latino play that people talk about, like, in the whole country, like everybody talking about? I think personally is that that's actually very hard to do, that a play can do that anymore. Because the way the society is so fractured, and it's just fractured because everybody's streaming things on different things, and like everybody, you know what I mean? Like people,
there's no zeitgeist.
There's no zeitgeist. The zeitgeist is gone, right? So I think that illusion, and that's what I meant by romantic. It's sort of like, there was this moment once where everybody talked about that play, right? It just can't happen anymore, Nope. But I understand the longing for it, and I guess I just wonder, from your perspective as a playwright, like when you're facing the page, the blank page, like how do you deal with that notion of the important play, right? Like, what am I doing, and how am I putting it down, and is this important enough? And I don't know. Maybe you don't.
No, I mean, when I was a young playwright, I searched that important play. Every play I wanted to be important. Every play I wanted to say something that was going to change the world. And then you realize that you just have a little bubble that you can inform and things like that. And you start being like, maybe you shouldn't try to be the savior of the whole world. Maybe you should be able to inform people enough to do it. I think that the main problem with theater and not being able to decide is that I say this a lot. It's like, I have never seen an industry that is so in love with its own past, where it doesn't move forward. It doesn't move forward. Like, the best productions are still a Hamlet revival, or like Devil was Salesman with Wonder Pillars. Like, let's put a big actor on a play that is 60 years old. And again, there's no Seldons anymore. So Gen Z, who is the people that we're trying, and Gen Alpha, who is the people that we're trying to get into theater, are seeing shows that have of a world that no longer exists, and they never existed. For them, it's the medieval age. What it was to us. So, like, there's a lot about trying to find important place so much that you forget that what's important. And what's important is like the emotions that makes us all so connected. Like, yes, a 9/11 play will be important yesterday. If I have it yesterday, great. But what I will remember about that play, because there was a lot of plays that came out of 9/11 when it happened. What I will remember about that play is the characters and how they dealt with it. So if you don't have that, you just have a play about something important without something to give it weight. And without the weight, it's not that important. You're just telling a story about something that happened. Like, somebody could have been killed in that corner, but I was in this bar. I said, I heard the shot, and that's my story. But somebody will be able to. I just think at the end of the day, you cannot be so in love with your past and not push forward to the future, as theater does. No other industry does this. Film is constantly talking about who's the next big director. And the problem is, and this is a generational problem, and also a theater problem specifically, is that every other industry tells you to learn from your elders and move forward. And like, how can you do this? And you hear film directors, and they're like, I learned from Scorsese did this. And they literally go and watch the 1930s, 1920s movies, and then the aesthetics, and like, they're picking and choosing, and they're helping each other to be better, and they create new aesthetics through that. Nolan created a new aesthetic with Oppenheimer, like, they all, after years, it is encouraged to do that. What in theater, the best you could do that is like do an adaptation, and that's the way to do it. Like, there's no way that you can like move forward with the style that you want. There's no like. And like, specifically, like you said with Francis, this generation does not listen about elders. They don't care about like what happened before. I'm gonna write this because I want to write it with understanding that it might have been written before. And theater doesn't give them the exciting thing right now. I'm not trying to say that theater is not exciting. It is, but it constantly leaves the most exciting work on the ground, and it doesn't push it. Like, I've seen work of Broadway and off of Broadway that is better than the shows that are Broadway, or the shows that are being pushed off Broadway by the bigger companies, and they don't get any love. Like, for example, when Sancocho came, it was sold out, extension sold out, and like, I'm gonna say this way. The other day I was talking. I am not supposed to talk about this, but the other day I was talking. I had a pretty big meeting, and I was talking about Las Borinqueñas and the run being a sold out run before the second preview, and it sold out the extension within a day. And the person, which is a person of money, was like, "Wait, why didn't it get extended?" I said, "Oh, they don't have this. Like, why didn't it go to Broadway if it was sold out?" "Oh, because theater." And they just couldn't comprehend the idea that a sold out show just doesn't get the next step automatically. They couldn't understand why people are leaving so much money on the table on theater. I was like, that's just theater. They are allergic to money. They don't like money. I don't understand. Like, that's what happens. And sometimes I think we focus so much on being there, we should, on the artistic, that we forgot we're also running businesses. We're also trying to running the business is important if you want that company to be there for the next generation. I think just people are very, very much stuck on the idea that theater was a safe space for me, or theater was this magical place for me, but don't grow up. Like, again, doesn't progress. Like, they don't become, when they become adults, a lot of them don't see it as what it is, an entertainment industry business. And like, you have to do those things, and you have to create the next thing, and like, give marketing to the show. If A Strange Loop didn't sell that well, it's because the marketing was awful. It really was awful. And then they use that to blame to put something like the next Disney show. And those things like are not gonna appeal to the new generations. It is not. And like, that's what I say when I think about theater is so in love with the past, but like, it doesn't create nothing for the future. The audiences, I work a lot with community engagement and audiences, and the audiences are like over 40 at best. At best, if you get 40-year-olds, like, and like, you don't create anybody with it. And then and I'll say this as the end, and the subscription method. That whole subscription thing is killing theater. It doesn't work anymore. People are not subscribing to anything. People want to choose. You could do partnerships and maybe subscribe, or like, oh, this is play, and you go to see the play from the other one. But charging people like $10 less for tickets, and like, it's not a subscription. I think that theater just needs to move forward, find a new reform of how to sell tickets, find a way to be more, not family oriented in the way of like plays, but prices. Like, how do you expect to make money? Oh, but like, we spend so much money. But like, if you will have longer runs of Broadway if your tickets were not $200, because then you could have people from like smaller communities, like low income communities, come to the shows, and doing that will create new theater artists. People like me that come from the country and saw one show like How I Learned to Drive, and was like, whoa, you can do that? It is all that. It's all connected. As long as we're so in love with the past that we're not teaching for the future, we're just teaching for the past. Theater is not, I mean, it will survive forever. It's one of the greatest art forms, and it's so easy to do in the sense like, it's a communal thing. It will always survive. But the fact that it's not a mainstream talk is insane to me. It wasn't that long ago. It was in the 80s that Andrew Lloyd Webber was a freaking mainstream star. So it's like insane to me that 30 years later, people think that Broadway is only Hamilton now. Anyway,
and revivals of Andrew Lloyd Webber, which is, you know what I mean. So we're sort of back in the 80s in a weird way. Just
in every way,
it seems. Well, this has been delightful, so wonderful, such a pleasure. For those of you out there, please follow Nelson Diaz-Marcano's work. Check out what they're doing in all forms. Keep tabs on everything. Also, if you've never been to the series before, welcome. If you have, then there are many conversations that you can go into our back catalog for, or the ones to come. So thanks for being with us, whether you're listening or whether you're watching, or both. And as you know, I always end the show by giving us so long to you out there, but then I stay offline with our guests for a little bit longer. But for now, thanks for being at Conversations from the Alcove. Bye.
Hey, man.